when you are running a business, you are actually solving a problem. Your service ought to solve a problem, or your product ought to solve a problem. Or if you are going to be an employee, you are an employee because you need to solve a problem for whoever that you are working for. Yeah, but if now you've got that inherent skill of solving problems, then you become a better employee.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Student podcast. Namhlanje siphethe honorable member se VUYOLWETHU ZUNGULA. How are you, sir?
Siyaphila kanjani mfethu?
Siyaphila. Thank you for honoring this invitation. How do you feel?
Hey, I feel intimidated.
Imagine, I'm the one.
It's the first time I'm having a podcast next to a pool. Hey, yeah, the setup. Hey, it's intimidating.
It's too scary, ne?
It's an intimidating setup.
I would say we are favored. I don't know how this came up, but it's what it is.
Yeah,
let's just embrace it. Cool. No, just to welcome you. This is an educational platform.
Okay.
It's a platform to educate mainly students, the student population. So since you are a political head, I would say this is the first segment of the mentorship segment of our podcast. So most of the questions are going to be like how and the what.
Yeah. Okay.
So I used to meet this lady. So mangimbona every day uthi, hey Mr. Mbata, here's an artificial penny for a random thought.
Okay.
What would you say?
Random thought.
Yeah.
I would say today is a good day.
Today is a good day.
That's a random thought for me, but today is a good day.
So now automatically like and kind of embrace this is actually a good day.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of a mentality that you have as a person. If une mentality tukuba it's a good day, then obviously you channel your thoughts, you channel your mind towards being positive about what is going to happen ngelo langa. And anything that happens ngelo langa, you see it in a positive light, even if it's a difficulty. But if you are positive in life, you also understand that this difficulty is actually shaping me to become a better person. There's nothing in that when as a person you should not take as a lesson, because it is experiences that give us lessons. Once tina sikwazi ufunda, we become better people because kukhulu esifundile. So for me, when I'm saying it's a good day namhlanje, I'm just being positive about what's going to happen, and the fact that as young people who are engaging, we're talking, and we're having positive and constructive conversations. Many a times as young people, we talk about izinto that don't build us. But at least we're having a positive conversation. So that's why for me, I think it's a good day.
No, thank you very much. Now I'm going to take that as something to carry every day. To a person who doesn't really know you, I did my own research, obviously, but I see what the background is NMU and uncharted. How did the transition from uncharted to NMU happen?
Yeah, I was actually born Kutsolo. Kutsolo is a town that is 30 kilometers from uncharted. But currently, my parent usemthatha. Then I grew up Ektuwa, which is a Butterworth. Then 2005, I finished my matric Ektuwa. 2006, I came up at NMU. It was NMMU, 2 M's at the time. No, Vista was before us. At the time, it was NMMU. Then came here, Safunda. It's only in 2010 I left for Pretoria. Then I came back to PE again in 2012. Then I left again in 2014.
No, Nyagos, and some people won't really choose NMMU. Because Nami, the way it happened to me, it wasn't a sincere choice. I was pushed by circumstances because there was a bursary fund called Ututu. I'm sure you are aware of it. So that's how I found myself. Financially, how did you make yourself come this side? Or now, even choosing NMMU, maybe it was a financial force. You can't go and explore other places.
No, I think for many students, there's the top universities in the country that ordinarily those will be the first choices. And then umntu will have another choice, which is NMMU. So it was a case even with me at the time. It was not initially my first choice, which is natural. But when I got here, I actually fell in love with the institution, particularly when it comes to the student life and student activities. Because whilst I was here, I was part of two different student formations. One was UTASA, which is a student Christian organization. The other one was Spotlight. Spotlight, I'm not sure if it's a corner, but it was an arts and culture organization. So we're under the arts and culture department. And when we're there, sasi busy trying to encourage abantu to identify their talents, nurture their talents, and provide a platform for abantu from an art perspective to actually showcase their capabilities. So it is a good university from a perspective of a student life. There's many opportunities of growth, but most importantly, there's NMMU, there's so much growth if they are a student up.
No, thank you very much for even giving us the insight, Choguti. There are student societies within the university. Just form part of it and expose yourself. Abanye abantu are actually forced into the political societies because they were helped by someone who's political. What are the key factors that a person can focus on whilst being involved in student societies?
Importance of student society is that number one, as a person, you need to grow. Especially as a young adult, which is a student, you need to grow. And growth lies in interacting with people. As ufunda, whatever course ufundayo, once you graduate and you are going to a workplace, you need to interact with people coming from different backgrounds and different life experiences. Now, student societies now help you mold the character yako, so that by the time ufika to the workplace, you are able to know how to relate with people. Because unabantu that will be very good in terms of, let's say, is doing accounting, become accounting, very good in terms of the subject, but they are very bad when it comes to people skills. They can't relate nabantu, they can't work with people, and they become bosses ezingakwazi usebenzisana nabantu. So student societies, they help you to relate with people, and at the same time there are skills that you need to learn. For example, when you go to the workplace, sometimes you need to make presentations. You need to have that confidence to speak phambi kwabantu. Now, if you are part of a student society, you become a chairperson, sometimes you need to speak to abantu. So you get to learn in the process. So there's so many skills that a person can learn when they are part of student societies, from public speaking, from time management, from people skills, people management. And at the same time, if you are actively involved in terms of students' organizations, you generally become a better person.
Thank you very much. And Ed, I really hope people take these words to heart, because I strongly believe that's what actually made me. As much as they were pushing circumstances, and it led to a lot of failure, because the struggle of trying to balance student activity with academia or academics you end up failing.
And it's a good experience, because if you check abantu that are, I could say, the middle class, abantu are working, they need to balance between their careers and their personal lives. Now, this student life is giving you a practical experience in terms of learning to manage either your academic life and your student life. Because when awuzothi xa uphuma uyophangela fanele uba the only thing that you do
is just working.
It's just work. You need to be part of a society. You need to be you are part of a church, you are part of a stokvel, you are part of a civil society, you are part of something that is outside of the work oyenzayo. So this now, imagine from the early age of 18 years, you get to learn how to balance your life. By the time you are 24, you're starting your work, your first job, you've already learned some of the skills when it comes to balancing, so that ukwazi ufunda ucompromise, ukwazi ufunda uprioritize. But ultimately, there's so many skills a person can get from being part of his student organizations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mhlambe, listening to your speeches or even interviews, there's this word that you keep on using, critical thinking. I remember when the bursary introduced critical thinking, it was a shock, because we had to go and read magazines that were finance related, then apply them. How can critical thinking be introduced to a normal person? Because I strongly believe if the university can only take 1% of matrix, the rest, the 90%, where does or the 99%, where does it get all of these competencies?
I think it needs to start much earlier than university, because by the time umntu reaches the university level, their minds have been already shaped to a certain extent. So that is why you find ukuba education system, when it comes to transformation, you should start from an early child development, whereby we are able to teach kids how to read for meaning, how to write, how to comprehend some of these into that they read and write. And at the same time, there needs to be programs or practicals that are done at a school level that will actually capacitate young people or learners towards critical thinking, so that a person, for example, I remember, I think I was doing grade 6 or grade 5. I had a friend, we're very naughty. We decided, but we want to sell sweets. Now, we're doing that because Sasfuni, we wanted a way of making money. So we had to hone our critical thinking capabilities by being able to understand which of the sweets will actually bear most profits. So we used to go to one of the retailers in town. Fortunately, our school was in town. Then we used to see how much is a price for the packet, and then we come back, we discuss, we see, all right, when we sell them, this is the markup, and we had to ask ourselves, will the students be able to afford it? And at the same time, we had to see if how much will the profits be per person, because obviously so we needed to divide. So you can imagine that was grade 5 or grade 6 already. Now, can you imagine if young people from that early age are able to be led or to be driven towards critically thinking on their own? It does not need to be business related. It could be anything and everything that is under the sun. But most importantly, once a person gets to have that skill of being able to critically think, that person becomes a problem solver. And that actually helps you, because when you are running a business, you are actually solving a problem. Your service ought to solve a problem, or your product ought to solve a problem. Or if you are going to be an employee, you are an employee because you need to solve a problem for whoever that you are working for. But if now you've got that inherent skill of solving problems, then you become a better employee. That is why you find other companies, sometimes they don't even care about the qualifications, or they place less regard on the qualifications, but they want to understand your attitude. They want to understand the way you think, because the qualification could be there, But if you are unable to translate e-qualification to a thinking process that solves the problems for the respective company, the qualification does not have value. So that is why, for me, I think the skill or the competency of a critical thinking, it is the core if we want to have a brighter future in our country.
Yeah. These are gems, guys, and I just hope you're taking notes to implement, not just nje.
Yeah.
Mhlampe, taking you to a journey of, you just graduated, now you have been absorbed by the job market. Unfortunately, you had to go to Pretoria.
Yeah.
There is that shift in lifestyle that takes place there. Fortunately, me as an entrepreneur, I had bought a stove because I was baking muffins. I had bought a fridge because I was renting out fridges.
Yeah.
But umuntu liya gap ends up overwhelming. Yeah. Now, how would you better prepare umuntu who is just transitioning from university to the workplace?
Yeah.
Even mentally.
Yeah. I would say what's important is ukuve xa kusithwa isixhosa sithi indlela ibuzwa kwabayaziyo. Sometimes as young people we don't understand the power that comes with ufumani guidance, ufumani insight from people that have walked the journey before us. It does not mean ukuba you're not going to live your life, but if uyakwazi ubuza ukuba okay, I'm moving now from PE, from eGqeberha, I'm moving to Etswane.
Yeah.
And when upayana you get to have abantu that are closer to you, that have been there before, abantu that can show you. Because if, for example, a person would reach out to me, I've made so many mistakes whilst I was transitioning, but now I'm going to be able to say, if you are going to be working, don't open these clothing accounts. If you are going to be and these telemarketers, do not accept a call from a telemarketer and you end up taking the product that they are selling. Because if you are taking the product they are selling, you are actually putting yourself in debt, because had you needed the product, bungazulinda telemarketer to call you, would have actively gone out. If you have a phone, you have actively gone out to search for a phone. Bungazulinda one telemarketer to try their luck back for nail. And at the same time, you need to save. Save for a rainy day, be able to invest in mali yakho that you have, and not confine yourself to say, this is the salary I'm getting, and therefore uthi xa usenza ibudget fanele ukuba your expenses always match your income, because income must always be more than your expenses zakho, so that whenever there are things that you don't plan ezenzekayo, you take from somewhere to cover, instead of now having to go to a bank uyoboleka imali, even if it's a short-term loan. But unfortunately it starts at an early age. Ubone le nto abantu loan airtime. We loan airtime, and that
ama-2000 asenkingeni. Sorry to cut you, because they are born listening to sezenzeka. Tina, we know a life of just buying cash.
You loan airtime. After loaning airtime, sometimes umuntu has got 4 or 5 different SIM cards in under 2 months, because uzolona apa angakwazi uyikhokha, alone apa and stop this SIM card aphinda. So it creates okanye perpetuates a cycle of being indebted. It becomes a habit to an extent whereby you are used to borrowing money, and before you know it, you are friends with omashonisa. And there's these mashonisas ezikhoyo ngoku whereby they ask profit, is it interest of 30% per month? You borrow 1,000 today, next month 1.3. Sometimes you'll take back uzombhatala interest, which is 300, but imali keeps on perpetuating, but it starts by these unfortunate habits. So that is why when you go to a middle class level, a lot of people in the middle class, they are in debt. Sometimes it is not because of anything else, but by the poor financial choices that they make. So that is why, for example, when then you are part of the societies, I want to go back there. Societies, they are developmental in nature. I remember Utasa, sometimes they used to bring financial advisors, whereby they used to tell us about how to budget, the importance of budgeting, and the importance of always living within your means. By the time some of these students are actually now working, they've already learned the importance of financial management, because there is no way uzohlulakala to manage a salary of 5,000 and you think that when it's 50 you are going to be an expert in managing a salary. So that is why for me I think it's important that critical skills must be there, and at the same time let's inculcate some skills, some competencies, life skills basically, but over and above the academic skills that abantu would be exposed to.
Thank you very much. Once again, people must take notes. Let's transition to you living work and tapping into the political space. Where I'm from, politics is a no-go area. Yay! Ufundile mntanami, focus is not deep. How was the transition and how did it take form?
2018, I think it was in March. So one of the leaders of the church I'm part of said there is a council of Messianic churches that they are helping to form, so they want me to play a role. So I got involved and I was given the responsibility of heading the church and state department there, because the church and state, it was basically to advocate on behalf of the church the issues as they affect amasonto to the political space or to the state basically. Because one of the problems that we face, we've got majority the African indigenous churches, they are not involved in terms of the decision making. Any government activity, it is always dominated by the South African Council of Churches. And now that South African Council of Churches does not include ETACC, does not include Amanazareta, does not include the Revelation Spiritual Home, does not include ZCC, does not include Abapostoli, Amazayoni, majority of the African indigenous churches. So now the government will consult this one entity that is purporting to be speaking on behalf of all of the churches. So what we wanted to correct was basically launched. And then from there, there was that outcry. Now, when government is wanting to introduce bills or policies or acts, they will consult the ACCC on behalf of the church, but they will not consult these churches. For example, TACC has got more than 6 million members. Amanazareta, they are above 5 million. You know how big the Revelation Spiritual Home is, how is ZCC is also big. You also know how Amazion across the entire country.
And they are so scattered.
They are so big, but what is important is that as a government, you need to be a representative of everyone. You must not have ichomizak on the side, abantu that abazothetha lento ufuna uyiva. You need, as a government, to be able to sit down with an institution or groupings that will oppose to wena, because you are, when you are in government, you are a servant of the people. The people must not serve you, but you as a government ought to serve abantu. So that is what we found is problematic.
It was the gap.
It was a gap
in the market.
It was a very big gap.
Massive.
I remember there was this law that they passed about a child that is 12 years can actually have akhiphe isisu without a consultation nabazali. Now you can imagine now from our experiences, can you imagine ingane na 12 years being given the authority over they can go to a clinic and have an abortion without without ilizwi lomzali? It's unheard of in our society. But government went on and did it, and they did not stop there. You'll recall even now with lento ye COVID, when there were children that who were given also the authority to be vaccinated
without staying at home.
without again lanto yomzali. You know, to us as bantu abamnyama, there's nothing that is more important than umzali. We grew up understanding uba ilizwi lomzali linguThixo. If umzali says mntanam phuma apha suyenza into ethile, you need to collect yourself, ungayenzi loo nto, yabo. Now we can't now exist with a government that is actually taking away the role of a parent ebantwaneni. So where I'm trying to get at, it was basically that gap. And then because of the limitations, because these guys don't want to listen to anyone else if abathethi lento bafuna bayithethe. The next step was to register a political party. That is how ATM was born, from the Council of Messianic Churches. Funny enough, at the time it is registered, I'm still a full-time employee in that particular company I was working for. And, you know, I used to go to work, I think from 9 in the morning. By 5 o'clock, when I leave, I need to do ATM programs. I come back home at 11 in the evening. The next morning at 9, I need to do ATM programs. Then the 2019, there's a prominent member of society that joined ATM. So when they joined ATM, what then happened is that I needed to do interviews. So my colleagues were so shocked, but we saw you on this particular TV station last night, but here you are doing our books, because I was working in finance. So it was one of those interesting, but fortunately for me, I was working in a very good team to an extent whereby sometimes I used to ndingene emsebenzini ngo-11. By 3 o'clock, I'm already gone because of ATM programs, because we're campaigning for the elections. And I even told my manager, hey, we'll have a proper conversation after the elections. For now, please forgive me.
Because already now they seeing you.
Yeah. They needed to understand that I need to focus on making sure that campaign kakhle and ATM does well. But what is important from that experience, and what I would say to young people, never burn your bridges. The fact that, for example, as I'm working, remember I'm number 1 on the list. If I was arrogant or I was short-sighted, I was going to say, I'm going to be a member of parliament, I don't need you.
Yeah, Nina, stay there.
But I managed to have good relations with the manager, with my colleagues, and with the company, to an extent whereby even now I'm able to go there just to have coffee now, we chat, we have good conversations. A lot of young people, they've got a misconception when they take a step further in life, they need to forget about abantu that played a role in terms of building them, shaping them. So I would say to young people, don't burn bridges. And at the same time, you know, the good relation that you have now, the same person, Klambi, that you have a good relation with now could be a person that could save you 20 years from now. So it's always very important for young people to understand, whatever direction life takes you, even if you win the lotto, but just make sure you do not burn bridges, you do not ruin relations with abanye abantu.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson, because bengifuna ukuthinta on that matter, because I once read a book, I think it was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, speaking about the approach to chasing a dream. Where these guys went to this foreign land and the captain burnt the bridges so that they get fully immersed in the war, and knowing what there's no way back other than conquering. Mhlambe balancing njengobusho, a new dream or a new passion with the old one. How does one handle that without lwamnyango valeka? Because ngiyakhumbula even nami trying to start a business whilst being in a tutuka program and being academic, there was a clash. I really felt like I was going against abantu abayi-million. Mangihamba nje ngizwe ngathi ngiyapambana even, because sometimes there'll be classes ngapha, but ngapha lento is calling me outside. How do you really strike that balance?
I think you just need to prioritize, and at the same time, you know that saying, but do not put all your eggs in one basket. In the sense that the fact that now you are chasing this new dream does not mean that you must completely forget about enye into yenzayo.
Yeah.
If you're a young person, you are, let's say you are in school, uyafunda, and you want to venture into business. Understand, but there's this commitment ozifake kuyo, which is you being a student. Now, you can't drop you being a student and chase after a dream of being in business, because once you fail, because you are going to also develop a habit whereby uqale into ungayigqibi because kusoloko kuvela something better. Now you keep on focusing on these other better things, and in the process you keep on having izinto that aren't completed. You look back and say, all right, I've not completed my studies. You look back and say, this business ngayiqala but do not get anywhere. You look back and you say, I went into the NGO sector, but I did not actually succeed because ubamba uyeka yabo. So find a way to make sure kuba as you are growing your business, but make sure kuba, because you don't study in a school, qualification is not going to take you 10 years. You can have a qualification uyenze in 3 years. Now, once you have a qualification, it also adds when at times now you are into business, even credentials zakho, because you are holding a BCom degree. Now, other people will take you seriously if they want to find you, because there is some discipline in you, because abantu put aside the qualification, but the message that is sent to other people by having qualification is that there is an element of discipline, because if you are not disciplined, bungasoze uhlale esikolweni for 4 years and you commit yourself, if you did not have some good traits, which is one of them is discipline. So prioritize, find a way to balance, but most importantly, be strategic enough to let ezinye izinto go. You are not going to win yonke into. Umuntu must not be that person ofuna ubamba zonke indawo in one time. Yeah, because sometimes ayincedi laa nto, yabo, because you can't, you are a student, ever said. You want to lead a political organization. You want to lead a religious organization. You want to lead an arts and culture organization. You want to be part of a student res. You want to be part of a house compayana. You want to be a choir conductor. You want to be in those needs. No, like abantu chance, yabo. And at the same time, focus on one or two things, master them, do them to your best of abilities, and give a supportive role to other people, abakhokhela in other spaces, because as young people, again, we must not have this main character syndrome whereby izinto, we think but izinto can only succeed if we are at the helm. We need to, if there's one thing that perhaps we need to try and see, we need to bring back, especially as abantu abamnyama. If you check, we've adopted the capital thinking. Lanto yama-capital ukuba it's always about you.
And limited resources.
It's never about the community. To an extent whereby a person will want to succeed yena. If into is led by another person, okanye the person that will shine ayinguye, umuntu either uzoyisabotaja okanye akazofuna to uba azicommit kuye. Umuntu will only give in their effort, in their time, if it's going to make them shine. Now, if I can take you back to pre-1994, a lot of communities were centered around the goal of ukuba, let us get rid of the apartheid government. They did not care whether nguMandela okanye nguChrisani okanye nguSobukwe okanye ngumama uWinnie okanye who is a leader. That is why you find ukuba a lot of people will think ukuba we're saved by few leaders, but no, abantu that made South African governable, it was not the few leaders that we know, but it was the masses of people, because the masses of people babezixelela ukuba we are going to get rid of this apartheid government. If you read some of the books, they'll also tell you about the time there was a boycott. Boycott was something babeyenza kakhulu.
It was common.
It was common. I remember reading a book about a boycott. I think it was a bus company from Alex, whereby I'm not sure what was the story about that bus company, but abantu Alex said they are not going, and there was only one bus company that was operating between Johannesburg and Alex. So abantu because of solidarity, because of that unity, they decided ukuba that bus asozuyisebenzisa. So ibifika in the morning, abantu bangayikhweli, they used to walk besiya to Joburg. I think it's a distance of 20 kilometers if I'm not mistaken. Bafika Joburg, basebenze, in the afternoon they walk back, yabo. And that company had to apologize, had to change some of his into that abantu were actually unhappy about. But if you check now, people want to live as if they're in an island. Whereas if we could find our generational mission, because once we find our generational mission, then sizokwazi ukuthi this is what our mission is, and all of us ought to come together in pursuit of our mission, not a case whereby we just exist, akukho any generational mission. Sorry man, sometimes I get passionate.
No. I love absorbing. That's the thing. And yonke lento esho, it's not the fact that we are sithini ngesiZulu umhlanhlatha, ugijima with no direction. It raises valid concerns. And ungikhumbuza lento, I think it's called injury to one, injury to all. It was a philosophy of some sort. If you're gonna mess up with one,
exactly,
just mess up with everyone. Even like prisons, cabanga fethu, people in the normal world bahlula abantu abasejele, we abantu abasejele bathi no, we are going on a hunger strike, sonke asithi akubole lokho kudla.
And you fancy kuba mhlambi the issue they're correcting when there's a hunger strike does not affect all of them, but bayazi ukuba if there's prejudice to one or two people, they're equally affected. And like we are saying, bangabantu are in prison, so society would view them as as the worst, as abantu that do not deserve to live. But there's something that we could learn from Bona. I remember, that thing, I remember in, I think it was 2004 or 5. We were in the township I grew up in, Msobomvu. Now, we're chilling with amanye amadoda in the township, So this one had an issue with me. I don't know for what reason. So he wanted to get all aggressive. Funny enough, ngumnganakhe that comes and says, Mfethu, kumfowethu lo, pointing at me. And athi, if ufuna ufika kuyo dlula kwimiqala, So you could see ukuba, we used to achieve so many things. We used to be protected from so many things when you are able to put your body on the line for the next person. So I think what we need to learn as young people, what we need to take up as young people, ukuba the capitalist thinking in our society is not taking us anywhere. Instead, we are becoming poorer, we are becoming more devastated, we are becoming more depressed, we are becoming so morosed in our country, all because we want a success that is confined to us. But the kind of thinking ebeka the community that is more about the broader societal or community goals is most likely to make us better people, because as abantu abamnyama we need to also to remember ukuba there could be kungakhona umuntu oshonayo maybe from your family before the sunset, the entire village izos. Xa kusithwa apha kufuneka kuyokombiwa ithuna awuyi wedwa, all men in the village bayaya pha, because that is how we used to operate. If you need to slaughter inkomo, you don't need to go to a butcher, kuza abantu from the community, because that is how we were taught to live. That is the type of living that actually made ukuba sikwazi ukukhula. And think about this. Think about the time of apartheid. Apartheid, South Africans are restricted from living in certain places, from participating in certain sectors of the economy, and from working in some jobs, from studying in some institutions. Versus now, whereby there's freedom, it's open. But look at the quality of life. There's more poverty upper than back then, and the reason why even though there was this evil system which is apartheid, however, how black people related to each other under this system of apartheid made the quality of life to be more bearable, because you were living in a community whereby, like you're saying, an injury to one is an injury to all. Now, this open system, if we took that mentality of a communal injury to one, injury to all mentality to this new system, because we would not have sellouts, you would not have corrupt people when they get to government, because it has been ingrained engqondweni yakho kuba if I'm a minister, if I'm a councillor, if I'm a mayor, if I'm a president, I'm here for the benefit of abantu bonke and not mna alone. So it is that kind of thinking we should have taken from pre-1994 sikhule ngayo and make sure kuba our own children bafunda okanye bekhula beyazi ukuba they need to think about abanye abantu and not have selfish, because if you are a child ukhula uselfish, chances are if you become a politician you are going to be corrupt and awuzubacabangela abantu. As long as you get your salary, as long as you get your tenders, you get whatever, because what's important is that you are selfish. So for me, all I'm saying is that there are values that made our life, or that made the life of Africans to be bearable, even if we are under that evil oppressive apartheid regime. But we lost such values. That is why even in this open free society esiphila kuyo, our lives are somewhat, or could be perceived to be much worse than the times of the apartheid.
And the confusion is brought by the fact that the enemy now has camouflaged himself or herself to a person who looks like me. The capitalistic system is ingene kumuntu who looks like me. I'm like, hey bro, I'm expecting ubuntu from you, not this approach. So mhlambe in your points, you are trying to bring back the soul, the African soul, back to the African person and Africanize the system.
Because you know as abantu abamnyama, as Africans, if there's one thing that we have, okanye we ought to have, eyokuqala la kuthiwa ngumbilini, unembeza. Inxhosa kuthiwa ngumbilini. Unembeza elanto whereby if you're about to do something wrong, there's something in you exelela no lento yenzayo wrong. Yeke lonto, yabo, and then you get to correct yourself. Now once kufe umbilini okanye kufe unembeza, you find ukuba umuntu is more concerned about imali. You know, we live in a country, like you rightfully say, there are some parts of our country whereby politically it is so volatile, abantu babulalana. And ababulalani because they want to provide better life for other people. Babulalana because they want to be in positions of whereby they could enrich themselves as abantu. So unembeza as a guide, okanye inembeza as a something efuneka sibe nayo, would actually help us ukuba, because you know, if you are going to be talking about corruption, you could have all of the systems
in place.
But look at the laws. How many laws are there when it comes to dealing with abantu aba corrupt? But the laws are there. There's even an auditor general. Abantu, they even know kuba these public institutions will be audited. Auditor general is going to come, and auditor general always comes with new regulations. However, because kufelanto that is inside, abantu will still find a way to beat the system so that bakwazi ba corrupt. And in the process of corruption, you know, that is why, you know, there's someone who argued to actually corruption is a crime against humanity, because corruption leads to a lack of service delivery. Lack of service delivery leads to abantu dying of diseases because there's no medicine in some clinics.
And some actually forced to act out of courage.
You know, corruption leads to ukuba kungakhiwa indlela kakuhle, and in the process abantu get to be in car accidents because of bad roads. You understand? Corruption leads to abantu having to drink water with animals, yabo. So that is why you find ukuba, and the root cause of corruption, yabo, it is ngabantu who've gone away from what defines or what should define umntu, because umntu, as we know, umntu ngumntu ngabantu. Therefore, if you are given now a responsibility to be a public representative, you are now given a responsibility ungacabangeli wena but ucabangele abanye abantu. That is why as young people we need to drive into it. We don't want messiahs. You see this thing of saying, but you know, so and so is our leader, he's our last savior, yabo. We take all of our efforts, we take okucinga kwethu, we pin our hopes kunqulwe umuntu oyi-one. Whereas we should be having, yes, the constitution will allow one president, one deputy president, 400 members of parliament, but we should be having a case whereby all of those people, they need to be subservient to the will of the millions of people. You understand? Umntu once angene to be a public official, they need to understand ukuba public representative, they need to understand ukuba they exist for the sole benefit of the 68 million citizens that we have in our country. Sorry, it's 58.
Ngiyahlafuna namhlanje. You remind me of a mentor that I once came across, and I would have conversations naloya muntu kuze kushisa inhloko.
Yeah.
And I like what you did with Wandile Msomi. I'm here because of him. And now I just reached out to him ngimbona ku Facebook ngithi ayibo, this guy just published a book, and even the topic itself, I'm like, let me call him in. Asazan. Then sadibana mhlambe on the topic of mentorship and a older person uplifting the young. What are cautionary things that would you outline? Because sometimes you'll find that a mentor might overwhelm the young lad, and mhlambe mhlambe what are cautions, and again mhlambe speaking on the relationship a mentor and a mentee can have?
Yeah, you know, the start of that relationship, it's you as the mentee that need to initiate. Because nguwe mos umntu that needs help, or that needs guidance, or that needs mentorship from the person that is somewhat advanceable, meaning that you think you can learn from. Otherwise, if I can approach you to say I want to mentor you, ukuve that saying, well, you can take a horse to the river, but if the horse does not want to drink, so that is why as a young person you need to identify ukuba I need to be endaweni ethile in life. And there are some people that are seemingly progressive, or that are closer to where I want to be. Let me align myself now. Now, if you are taking initiative as a young person, uzokwazi ukutsho kuba, okay, let's say you want to be a CA in future. Now you want to partner, or you want to be mentored by someone who's currently a CA that maybe is doing, or maybe has got a company. You can say, please, can I do your company's books? Or can I capture some of the transactions? Can I do some of umsebenzi? Kuwe umuntu as a mentee that needs to beg or push or ask for umsebenzi from this person. Now, this person, the mentor, what they need to be cautious about is to live ubomi babo using wena, and at the same time wanting to correct some of their mistakes using wena, because sometimes ubomi you will never understand into up until you personally make that mistake. That is why ukuve that teaching sasifundisa ukuba there's going to be a heater echisayo, there's going to be a child kuzothiwa hata, yabo, kuthiwe hata angamameli kube kuthiwe hata, and then bazomyeka abazali, because once aye phafika ache, it's only then they will learn. Yabo. So sometimes we need abantu bazothi hayi bathi hayi, but if thina was stubborn kufuneka uvulwe ukwazi ukutsha, from ukutsha kwakho you feel that pain, then uzokwazi understand ukuba lento kudala kusithiwa hayi kuyo iyashisa, yabo. But now as a young person you need to keep an open mind, but what is important is that you need to have regular conversations as to where you want to go, and if you are a mentor, do not want to confine lo muntu mentorishayo to wena as a person, because you need to open doors for other people. You could be, let's say in the political space, you are just an MP, but this person has grown so much to an extent whereby now they need to interact with abo minister, abo deputy minister, abo president. You can't now feel ukuba this person must be loyal to you, yabo, to an extent whereby you can't expose them to other people, including up in South Africa, for example. A person can see, hey, this person now deserves to be at a level of the African Union or any level here UN. You need to create those relations or open the doors so that this person uyakwazi ufikelela phayana. Not have a case whereby you want uwenzi cult in a way whereby this person must be loyal to wena, because you are mentoring this person ngokwe potential yakhe ne capabilities zakhe, and the capabilities zakhe, if they take him up to a level of UN, help him get there. Suthi wena because uphelele to being a councillor at a local municipality ungafuni adlulele to higher levels.
And I think that's the approach for parents. As a parent, you genuinely want your child to be over you or surpass you. Mhlampe, when a person is chasing a passion, I would say mhlampe politics to you came like that. Mhlampe, dealing with a parent who doesn't understand or fears the terrain you are taking, or doesn't even understand the vision. Because ngakuza nakwenye interview alluding to the modern world is speaking Internet of Things. But the conditions are not changing to accommodate the changing times. Mhlambe, as a grown up, how is a grown up supposed to look at this young person and welcome that person to
No, ndiyakuva in the sense that, a parent will always be a parent. A parent, if ndiyagoduka ngoku ndiyezilalini, usomdala will always say, hayi kaloku suhambe ebusuku, sukwenza into ethile. Uxa ufika phana ufika ube ngumntana when you deal with a parent, because a parent, you could be a 60-year-old and fancy ba umzali wakho is 85, but lamzali will always see you as umntana. It's human nature. But I think what the discussions that we need to have is not as young people, we need to find indlela of informing our parents on the times esiphila kuzo ngoku. Singathathi for granted ukuba singabikho clumsy in our approach of informing them. Because I could be clumsy to say I'm in this profession, let's say it's a YouTube profession or whatnot, without finding a kutandoni tact of making the parent to understand now the profession and how it is something enziwayo. For example, we could have a parent ezothi kumntanakhe ukuba you must study either accounting okanye medicine okanye all of these well-known qualifications. Whereas ngoku you have abantu that are studying media-related studies because of the growth when it comes to the growth of media, social media, as a tool of reaching, of taking news to abantu. So you find ukuba this parent, if akazi anything about the media, now if you are going to be clumsy, you approach yako, this parent will always block you. But if now you find a way to inform the parent to say, kalung mama, kukho social media, operator kanje, and this is the opportunities ezikhoyo, and because akugcwelanga abantu baninzi in that profession, meaning the few people abafundayo will always be guaranteed of opportunities because asigcwelanga. Unlike some of the qualifications whereby wonke ubani xa ephuma from a high school uyokwenza la qualifications to an extent whereby there's one job opening for about 4,000 graduates. Now, if you are able now to inform and educate umzali wako is able to understand, because the times are different, like take umntana that is 4 or 5 years, sometimes they can even play on the iPad now. Whereas thina when we were 4 sasidlala amamayibhili yabo sisenza imoto zamacingo, we never knew anything about that. Therefore mentality of lo mntana that is able to operate an iPad at 4 years, when they become 18, is going to, if you take yena and the experience yakhe now versus how you when ingqondo yakho when you were 18, is going to be different because times change, technology leads to some changes, especially when it comes to mental capacity. So but we just need to find a way to educate abazali bethu, and ke sibacela abazali bethu kuba they must just have faith in us, yabo, because ezinye izinto shem kunganzima bazi understand, yabo. That is why uzoba nomzali, yabo, ukubona abazali ubone la joke ku social media, yabo, umalume is going to go and comment on your Facebook post at amshana yanhle inwele zakho mshana, afuna uyigqibezela ba what the joke says, yabo. But yabo, because umalume shem thinks uthetha nomshana yedwa, I understand uba xa iposter on the wall other people bayakwazi ubona what is right. That is why bezothetha izinto that are sensitive.
Yeah, I think we're going to be close to wrapping it up. Let's touch on the critical points because we need to conscientize people about the next year. 2024 is a big year. And when you're operating in two spaces that I really feel like mentally you need to work on the people. The church space, to me, it's very hopeful. Umuntu is built to look and ukunqula is something that they are used to. Mhlambe there might be a lack in action oriented conduct. Even in politics, it is the same thing. Umuntu am agitator, then I focus on that one leader. Mhlambe to the people who are going to be voting next year, what message, and especially on the two spaces you are in, speaking to a church young person, a person who goes to church, and a political person who,
I think what's important is we need to be practical, or we need to just provide practical solutions. We can't be kept in hope for 30 years. Okoba when we vote izinto zizoba ngcono ipheli 30 years oko sinethemba. We need to have practical solutions. You know, for abantu that go to church, I would just remind them about David. Okoba David, as much as he prayed, as much as he had hope ukuba uThixo uhamba naye, but he had to take a rock or a stone in order to defeat Goliath.
I keep saying.
Zangahlala David and just pray for Goliath to die. He had to act, and that action was to take Elalitya in order to kill Goliath. And that is how the problems were solved back then. In other words, we need to be abantu that supplement our prayers with action. Action in the sense that what are we practically doing? Number one, to make sure that we get to live better lives. Number two, we are able to create a better future for abantwana bethu. You know, if there's one thing for me that we all need to get to go back, abantwana bethu will inherit a country that is a result of the actions zethu. If we are responsible, abantwana bethu will inherit a better country. If we are irresponsible, then all of these things ezenzekayo, your rape, your murders, your corruption, your destabilization of infrastructure is going to be tenfold. And that tenfold is going to impact abantwana bethu. Now, as umzali, you know ukuba une obligation uba umntana wakho makaphile impilo engcono kunawe. Like you said earlier on ukuba umntana, a child ought to surpass a parent, but a parent ought to create conditions, a conducive condition so that abantwana are able to do much better than them. You understand? Now, if you are going to be living in a country whereby the unemployment rate is so high, poverty is so high, and generally the country at a macro level is in a crisis. Now, what you do at a micro level, which is a family level, noba uzama kangakanani. There's these things ezenzekayo at a macro level that will impact you. For example, load shedding impacts everyone, whether rich or poor. Crime affects everyone, whether rich or poor. Poverty affects again everyone, whether rich or poor, because with an increase of abantu that are in poverty, government is forced to increase the taxes. That is why VAT yanyuka from 14 to 15%, because they were trying to get more funds that could be given to abantu that cannot be able to provide for themselves. So we need to have that mentality of saying, Kuba, we need to have practical solutions. Practical solutions as to, if I'm coming to you as a young person, I'm talking about how to transform the education sector. I need, don't listen to me from a far-fetched perspective. You need to understand, but practically, if ATM gets to be in power, number one, there's going to be a skills-based education system, whereby by the time Elena ephuma ku-matric bane-skill abazokwazi ukusebenzisa, so that by the time umntu is unala matric certificate is able to say, I'm going to go to school evasithi endaweni ethile, or I'm going to create my own business using this skill endinaso. And there are these inherent skills, like we spoke about, of problem solving, of critical thinking. Those are the skills that we want everyone to have, because yonke into iqala up. Secondly, if apha sithetha about how are we going to create jobs, as the ATM are very clear to say, we're going to go very hard when it comes to local production. Because if you've got a product, let's say it's an Adidas product, it is produced in Indonesia. Adidas, I think, was a German. Now, it means you are creating wealth for the Germans. You are creating jobs for people in Indonesia. So practically, as the ATM was saying, Kuba, there needs to be local production of goods to an extent whereby we only import what we cannot produce. There is infrastructure. If you go to Edimbaza, you go to Ecuwa, you go to Mtata, you go to Hammanskraal, you go to Eqwaqwa, if factories are there, there is the services that we need, there are the goods that we need. Because ask yourself, how many people use or buy soap? Gelanga, baning. How many people buy toothbrushes? How many people buy amakhandlela, especially now, because there's load shedding? But the question is, who is producing all of these things? What we're saying as the ATM, Ukuba, we do not want these things, number one, to be produced outside of the country. Number two, we don't want these things to be produced in certain centers in our country. But we want a case whereby, if Oya Ecuwa, there are factories there, allow abantu baseGcuwa, cooperatives, business people from eGcuwa, to produce some of izinto that are used by the very same people eGcuwa. Now, what that will do is izokwenza ukuba economy ikwazi ucirculate amongst different people. You know, ukuve apha xa other people talk about ukuba when 10 rands enters into the Indian community, it will circulate more than five times before going out. But when it comes to the black community, ingena kuwe within first umuntu oqala oyikhuphayo iqwa nguwe, and practically
and manje isiya kwi-Pakistan manje.
Exactly, yabo, and look
kuba buzwide lapha.
Exactly, and again, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, all of these people, benzani, they take the profits, they take it to their own countries. Economy in South Africa gets to be drained in the process. So what we need to drive now, Tina, as people, is to say, let us produce izinto apha South Africa, and let us make sure, because the economy, remember, Kuba, it is structured in a manner that allows very few players. Look at, for example, the industry, banking industry. 5 or 6 banks. Go to the financial services company, zingapi 5 or 6. Go to construction companies, 5 or 6. So what we're saying, we need to create spaces whereby there's many players, many producers, instead of a majority of the people are consumers and there's few players. So in a nutshell, what we're saying, Tina, is the ATM, Ukuba, let's just be practical. And now as a young person or as a voter, be lean towards into that makes sense, and at the same time you can hold umntu accountable for. That is why other people say, but you cannot be telling us vision 2060. You won't be in government 2060. What needs to be what we need to be talking about zizinto that you can actually hold people about. If, for example, it's period 2024 to 2029, I must tell you about izinto when I'm president of the country I will do at that point in time, so that you are able to hold me accountable. Ndingakuxelela about 2060 because 26 uzofika, the person uzofika president 26, so mnandazi, did I make that commitment to you?
I'm not accountable
of any promise that was made by someone else.
Siyabonga kakhulu baba, and I would really wish we could track land ole. But mhlambe just the last words to the youth, and secondly the importance of land, and just the emphasis on what you are actually advocating for when it comes to the land issue.
Young people, I think we need to work the land. The pieces of land that we have that is accessible to us now, let's work it. The reason why I want to focus on us working the land and making use of the land esinayo ngoku is not to pin our hopes on these parliamentary processes because they take long. For example, the land question, I think it has been agitated for more than 9 years. Now it is still unresolved. Meaning, as you're saying, remember you spoke about abantu that are hopeful. So can you imagine you've been having hope for 9 years ever since the land question was brought to the table. Now you're going to need to be hopeful for another 5 years, again another 5 years, whereas you could make use of what we have now. Majority of us sinelali that we come from. In those villages, kukhona igadi, kukhona masimi. Let's work the land. Kukhona abantu that I admire, whereby a person uhlala in an urban area, and you find that there's just a small corner apahlala khona whereby this person wenza igadi. Some of the vegetables they use, they're coming from those gardens. If we can have that mentality, we can go far. The second thing, the responsibility of creating a better future for us as young people does not belong to other people, it belongs to us. That is why I love that saying, nothing about us without us. Because if Kutwa Upper young people are the future of the country, if there's one thing I can tell you, if the country does not have a future, it means the very same young people do not have a future. So it is in your interest as a young people to shape the kind of future you want for yourself. It is in your interest as a young person to shape the direction of your own country, because nguozo phila South Africa. You know, when we're saying abantu must participate in politics, shape the direction of their own country, it's not to say they must shape the direction as a China. China. We're saying they must shape the direction of the very same country that they want to grow in the very same country. So that is why it becomes important. Put aside the politicking and politics. Politics is a system of governance. Ukugovernishwa kwakho, i-governance yakho relates to izinto zenzayo. Whether you've got a job or you don't have a job is dependent on politics. Whether you are paying 20 rands for a loaf of bread or you are paying 10 rands depends on politics. Whether you are going to be paying for i-bond yakho, interest rate that is very high or very low, it depends on politics. Whether you live in a safe country or in an unsafe country, it depends on politics. Therefore, when you are participating in politics, you ought to make your life better so that ukwazi uphila impilo engcono. And as a young person, do not let it disappointment of abantu that have been in government for the 29 years benze make you to think ukuba all politicians are the same. For example, you could okay, as a young person, you could ungabi na girlfriend and boyfriend at a high school level. Uxa ufika apha yabo ubone a person that you regard, hey, this one is the love of my life, yabo. Akuthi akushow flames, yabo. Ube broken hearted. You don't say, hi, I've given up on love. Don't. You keep trying up until you get it right, yabo.
Yeah.
So what's fun is that, you know, young people, they will always go to umjolo abazomiyeka umjolo up until they get it right, yabo. But when it comes to ubombabo, they give up on into politics because of a disappointment of a person they could remove by voting, yabo. You know, there's about voting does not help. Go 1994, what removed the apartheid government? It was not guns, because we never went to war. It was voting. So if voting does help, and we see this because in 1994, apartheid government was removed by voting. So if 1994 abantu bakhutshwa by voting, in 2024 we could remove this corrupt government, a government that has got no interest on the future of abantwana bethu, also by voting.
Yeah, thank you very much. Inselelo ifakile kubantu, and hopefully abantu, and even the link to voting is online now.
Yeah.
Sizoyifaka even ngaphansi kwale episode. Siyabonga kakhulu baba.
Siyabonga kakhulu.
Sure.
Thank you.
And all the best with the campaign and further engagements.
Na kanjani.
No, siyabonga. Po. It's a wrap.